Season's greetings, IGN readers and or viewers and or both. You can do both, not at the same time, unless you have an Xbox Snap, I guess, on your thing. Can you snap a Kindle book to your Xbox while you game?
Well, you should be able to.
Getting off track here. Let's we'll welcome him to this special 1 hour-ish commentary looking back on the IGN AU team's top 12 games of 2013. It's Tristan Ogilvie here. Joining me, Lucy O'Brien.
Hello, Tristan. Hello, everyone.
Cam Shea.
Greetings.
And, of course, Luke Riley.
Hi.
Hi. And hopefully you're watching this over the break with a warm glass of eggnog in your hand or something, or whatever kind of nog.
Well, if you're in the UK, a warm glass of beer.
Yeah. I like to put bacon in my eggnog. Call it a hog nog. I haven't done that actually, but now that I mention it, it's not a bad idea. Bacon and eggs. We should point out from the top that this is not the IGN top 12 games of the year. This is very much the IGN AU's personal favourite games of the year. And
although I'm sure there will be some overlap.
Of course. Aliens, Colonial Marines, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody loves that.
Spoiler. There's only 4 of us. We are but men and lady. We don't get to play every game that comes... Well, Cam does. But we don't all get to play every game that comes out each year, so apologies if we've skipped over your favourite game in this list.
Yep. Because we either haven't played it or we didn't like it.
Yeah. So you can just take an
Chances
educated
are
guess
it's the
about
latter.
that.
Yeah. So I can't remember. Why did we choose 12?
Because we couldn't cram it into 10.
Okay, all right, cool.
And we figured 20 would just be way too long. I mean, we could have done the top 30 quite
12
easily.
games of Christmas.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Or 12 games of
But it
insert
has-
your religion here.
Yeah,
But like
even
even with that kind of, even with the fact that we haven't covered off, like, we haven't all played every game this year. I mean, it's been such a bumper year. We really could have done top 30 quite easily.
Yes.
So, but 12 it is.
Okay, so we're going to have 5 minutes dedicated to each of these games, so it's going to be roughly an hour. So, let's get it underway. Let's go to number 12, Luke. Ooh, smooth. And it's Lego Marvel Superheroes. Now, Lucy,
Yeah.
I'm going to start with you here because up until this point, Lego and Marvel, both unknown quantities, but out of nowhere, Lego Marvel Superheroes just came out and just blew everyone's minds.
Well, I think, when we were talking about including this game on the list, the reason that I wanted to include it was because when I first picked up Lego Marvel Superheroes, I was kind of expecting the same kind of Lego game, because there have been so many.
Had you not played Lego Batman 2?
I played most of the Lego games.
Okay. But not
I
Lego
don't
Batman 2.
actually remember if I played Lego
Okay,
Batman.
just keep going. Just keep rolling.
But there was something just so ridiculously fun about this one that kept me hooked. Usually I'll pick up and play a Lego game, put it down. This one I really loved, and I think, of course, it was all about fan service. It was all about giving you all those Marvel characters that you've always wanted to play. Very much, with the first time you played Batman in Arkham Asylum, like you suddenly felt, God, I get to be Batman. But in Lego Marvel Superheroes, albeit they are Lego, but you still get to be, you're seeing Human Torch, you get to be Wolverine, you get to be it's basically name it. You get to be everyone in the Marvel universe, and for me, that is just Batman. It was just so much fun, so much fun. But you liked it too, right, Luke?
Yeah, I just think it's just, I mean, not only is it kind of adorable anyway, and it's really fun to look at, but it's not just a matter of, hey, here's all these characters and they look cute because they're made out of Lego. It's also made with so much love. For the material and for the characters and the abilities of the characters, like how they've managed to make so many of these characters distinct from each other within such a simple sort of gameplay concept as the Lego games is quite remarkable. Like the way you have, like we just saw the Human Torch flying around. Now you've got Bruce Banner transforming into the Big Fig. He can smash stuff. He works in conjunction with Tony Stark. He flies around as Iron Man. I don't know. It's just like everything about it. There isn't anything that hasn't been thought out.
And it is, as you say, it's those little things. Like, for example, when you're playing as Mr. Fantastic, you can just turn him into a teapot at any time. You can just turn him into a teapot. And
that would be handy in this office.
I spent my entire time with this game just as a teapot.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I mean, fair enough, because it's very charming.
It is.
When he turns into a teapot. But yeah, it's just it's that little those sort of little details that really just makes this game totally sing. And little asides to every Marvel film that that we've sort of just little nods here and there
Right.
to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, which I really, really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, well, you got Agent Coulson giving you voiceovers and all this sort of stuff. And you're right, it is the little touches. Like it's the little things like Iron Man and Spider-Man. They always land from great heights, like a movie poster pose.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That wasn't skipped. And like when Hulk grabs people by the legs and smashes them around, it's like that's just like the scene in the Avengers with Loki, the one scene everyone remembers.
Yep.
It's like nothing was missed.
Yeah, and I think for me this is kind of the benchmark for Lego games, and
I think it's a benchmark for superhero games.
yeah, I agree, and what it as you were saying before, Luke, what it's done so well is that what Lego games allow is to sort of strip everything back to its most simplistic form, but in that way, I don't know, you're getting the sort of the best, most entertaining parts of this universe. You're getting, you're getting some really great platforming action. But yeah, there's none of that convoluted story that you might get in an otherwise dedicated superhero game.
Yeah.
So have you guys been playing it co-op exclusively, or
Co-op with a 5-year-old.
Okay, so that's kind of... Is that like...
It's kind of like I'm doing 1.5 times the work.
Right, yep.
I've been playing it more or less by myself, but with the occasional wingman.
Pretty sad, Lucy.
It is pretty sad, especially for
Don't you know
for
any
a game like this.
5-year-olds?
Just ask Baker.
But especially with a game like this, it's way more fun when you've either got a wingman or a co-op partner, just because it's just so freaking charming.
Yeah.
And I think that
But they've always juggled the kind of character switching really, really effectively, I think,
Yeah.
as well. So...
And of course, there's there are some really, really. I mean, I've been stumped a couple of times in this game. The gameplay isn't entirely simplistic. All right, but we're moving on to number 11.
Speaking of charming, Rayman Legends. Also incredibly charming. Also awesome in co-op with 5-year-olds or without them. This, of course, is the Eye of the Tiger mariachi
I just
level.
absolutely adored this
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the way that they match the platform and the music is superb, and they do it several times throughout the game. Well,
Yep.
more than several times. But
And then aren't there like 8-bit versions?
that's right, yeah, which I didn't even know about until only recently. But yeah, I think Ubisoft Montpellier, is that how you pronounce it? Montpellier? I think I sounded pretty learned by saying it that way. Have a kind of Miyamoto-esque kind of approach to fun and sort of whimsy
Yep.
that you don't really find outside of Nintendo, typically.
That I think bringing up Nintendo is really apt, because the things I love most about, for instance, the Galaxy games is that it's just constantly hitting you with new ideas.
Yes.
And doesn't feel the need to
Nothing ever gets stale.
Yeah, nothing gets stale. There's always new ideas. It's always evolving.
Yeah.
And this game's very much like that. You're seeing new stuff and new twists on concepts almost every single level.
Yeah.
And it's just... and you're unlocking so much stuff along the way. It's got a really good sense of pace and urgency about it.
Yep.
And the art direction's just stunning. It's such a pretty game. And you know what? Like, this will never look bad.
No.
You know,
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
a really
Timeless.
good point.
It was a little bit of it must have been a little bit of a blow for Nintendo when they lost this as a Wii U exclusive.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because as
especially
you
when
said,
especially when Ubisoft were like, yeah, the reason it's not exclusive is because we need to make a profit.
Yes,
on
we
this.
need to actually make some money.
Yeah. But it's really elegant the way they took the co-op kind of gameplay mechanics and made it work in single player. Like, I love those levels where you've got your helper and it's just a button tap to kind of move bits and pieces around the level, and because you still got a time, but it's still challenging. But it works really, really well. So, yeah, kudos for retooling it in such an elegant kind of way.
Yeah, it really does have that kind of Mario Galaxy-esque feel to it, doesn't it? And I think in a year without a Mario Galaxy...
Well, I mean, on that, we should say this is a slight spoiler for the rest of the list, but this game is kind of here at the expense of Super Mario 3D World.
That's true. Yeah, a game that we genuinely love, apart from Luke, obviously. But yeah, like this kind of made a bit more of an impact on us, I guess. I mean, 3D World's really, really great, but I don't know if it will kind of last in the same way that this game does.
No.
The question is, can Rayman become... You know, if this was kind of Rayman's best outing yet, I think we can all agree, right? Can he become as iconic? Well, obviously not as iconic as Mario, but can he become like the new figurehead for Ubisoft?
Well, he was the figurehead, and then they kind of got distracted with all the Rabbids stuff, and now they're back to Rayman, which is great, because as cute as the Rabbids are, like, they never produced anything too memorable in a gameplay kind of sense.
No, it's all mini-game stuff.
Yeah. And it's also worth mentioning, and I've said this before, but like at first the controls in this game feel a little kind of like sluggish almost.
Right.
Like it's quite different. It's not quite as taut, if you will, as the Mario games, but you kind of get used to it, and it's got a rhythm of its own. I think that's so important for platformers, is to kind of establish its own feel and not kind of try and be something that it's not. So, yeah, works really well.
So I was nodding just then because I agree with you, but also to the beat of Black Betty.
More games should include music-based
I'm with you.
platforming.
Some of my favourite games of all time are music-based platformers, like Sound Shapes, 140 this year did that as well. I just love, integrating music with gameplay. Yeah.
But remember when they showed this, I think it was it last year's E3, they sort of they demoed this on stage and everyone just went wild.
Yeah.
With good reason. Like when I got to, this is the last musical level of the first batch of levels.
Yeah.
When I played this, I turned around and I played it again. And then I backed out and then I played it again. I played this level 3 times in a row because I enjoyed it so much. Like that never happens in anything. You're just like, let's just keep going. Next level. It's like, no, I want to do that again. And I want to do it again.
Oh, so much love has gone into this, man.
Totally. And now it's time to move on to number 10, which is something that you played over and over again, Luke, as well as Rayman. Or you certainly drove around over and over again, but Forza Motorsport 5.
Forza Motorsport 5.
Arguably the next-gen game of the year, perhaps?
Well, it's certainly the only next-gen game that...
on this list.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's the only one, and it's the only one that sort of interests me.
Oh, look! There's a bogan at Bathurst.
But, like...
For those of you who don't know what a bogan is, please Google it.
Yeah.
But everything about this game sort of speaks to me, like the way the cars feel, the way the detail in the cars, the sound is incredible.
Yep.
Easily the best in its class. Bathurst obviously is a huge thing, but like it goes beyond little, token things like that. Like it's not just Bathurst that gives me raging whatever about this game. GT6 also has Bathurst, but I don't know. It's just the way they approach the curation of the cars they've chosen. I don't think there's enough tracks, and it'd be great to have, changing light and all that sort of stuff. But I think in terms of a launch racer,
built from scratch.
Well, built from scratch more or less. Comparing it to say the likes of, I don't know, like a Project Gotham that we got last generation or something like that. I think this is such an amazing place to start for Forza this generation, and I think it really is a warning shot. Well, it's probably more of a warning shot. It's more of a shot to the leg.
It's a killing blow.
Shot to
Not quite a killing blow.
Oh, okay.
A crippling blow.
Yeah, to other console races, and it's just like this is what.
Keep your eye out for it. There's another bogan appearance, I think, coming up here, just sitting on top of that little overpass. There he goes, enjoying his time in the sun.
But yeah, it nails everything. It nails the sense of speed. It nails the feeling of control. Like here up on the chase, where you don't lift. And now
keep your foot down.
Heavy on a braking gear.
Such a great track.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at the interiors. Obviously, something that this game does a lot better than
interiors. Something gamers know a lot about.
Yeah. Here, like, you probably can't. You might get a little bit of it when you get the right lighting, but it's just the textures, the surfaces. Like, I can't tell the exact number of the surfaces because I can't remember them, but there are so many different surface types that have been sort of put into the game here, and like the detail of the interiors, the light, the slides across the bonnets, and all of this stuff is kind of stuff that we had in
FM radio.
all this stuff we had in Forza 4, but here it's just amplified, basically.
Now, look, you reviewed this for IGN.com.
Yep.
If you were sitting on the fence between buying a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and you were a racer fan, do you think Forza 4 is worth picking up an Xbox One for?
If you like races, if you must have races and you love cars, and you absolutely had to buy a next-gen console before you fainted, then yeah, you'd buy it.
The vapors.
Yeah, because right now your only choice elsewhere is Need for Speed.
Yeah,
Right.
Which is fine, but it's just like there is so much content here. This will keep you going and going and going.
Yeah.
I will say that I don't think it's overall. I think Forza 4 is a better, broader game, like finished game. But what this game does better than Forza 4 is obvious. Like, it's obvious in every way.
Connects functionality.
Yes, definitely, absolutely. No, even little things like the haptic triggers on the Xbox One controller and that sort of stuff. That's really good. And there has been work done with the handling, with the suspension and the tyre physics.
Yep.
Which you do notice when you go back and play Forza 4.
Yep.
Which I've been doing a little bit recently. I think
so fast.
Yeah, this is the Koenigsegg Agera, which is a brand of car that has still yet to make it to Gran Turismo for some reason.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they don't have Koenigseggs.
Yeah, but they've got moon buggies.
That's true. You cannot go to the moon in Forza 5.
Crap.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before. I love GT. But I just think this does things just slightly better.
Look at those reflections.
Oh yeah, the
Nice.
reflections on the bonnet are pretty amazing.
And this is a game that like totally hooked me in as somebody who didn't think I'd really dig it that much. And that's why it's on this list, is because like enough of us really got something out of this, and I got completely different things out of it.
Number 9 is, of course, Luigi's Mansion. This is
classic Luigi's Mansion.
Classic Luigi's Mansion.
Well, the reason, apart from the obvious,
This bit
Ghostbusters.
from Luigi's Mansion really scared me when I was
Graphics
8
are so
years old.
80s. Yeah, it scared me too, actually.
I hope this entire clip is just Ghostbusters.
Well, perhaps for copyright reasons, it's not. But the reason I put it there, aside from the obvious link, is that, Ghostbusters tagline, Bustin' makes me feel good.
Yep.
And that's what this game is. It's all about feeling good. Again, going back to the kind of, Nintendo at their best. You just play this game with a smile on your face the whole time.
Yep.
Even when you're getting stuck or frustrated or whatever, like it's
And just from the very beginning, it's so much fun playing as Luigi, who's kind of like the adorably cowardly brother.
Oh yeah, just he's constantly cowering and just.
And his little legs sort of kind of get the better of him when he tries to run away.
It's got so much personality, this game. I mean, the animations are just quite incredible, but it's paired with some really, really clever game design.
yeah. And
It never gets old.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, you can't tell from this, but it actually benefits from the 3D as well. Sorry, I had dumplings for lunch, but you don't need to hear that. The 3D on the 3DS, it actually, I feel, in this game and a certain other one, this year.
Well, it's because it's like that diorama style presentation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a stage that you're playing on, and so it works really well because it's kind of like a fixed perspective kind of thing.
I must say that I was one of the few, relative few gamers that owned a GameCube, but I never actually played the original Luigi's Mansion.
I really liked the original.
I didn't avoid it. It just passed me by somehow.
It was good. It was really good. But this definitely just expands out, and it's got more variety. And I mean, there's so many secrets in this game. It's a world that you can really explore to its fullest, which is what I want. Is what I want from Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
you want like hidden blocks, and you want that kind of sense of anything could be lurking if you just kind of look.
You want to be rewarded for exploring, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
the
a lot of games
3DS has
do
had
that.
a really strong year this year, I feel. And
Yes, it
I think
has.
that if you were going to pick one up and you hadn't already, God, now's the time. I mean, just by the sheer sort of volume of quality games that have come out for the handheld this year, including this one, you'd be foolish not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke.
I have a 3DS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where it is at the moment.
It's in the office somewhere.
It's
Other
in the
people
office,
are using
yeah.
it.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I also think that this is another of those games that I think as a team, as an Australian team, we're quite drawn to that sort of that charm, that buzzword that we throw around quite a bit. But we are. I mean, it's again, it's the little touches in this game, that the little sort of charming aspects to it that we're so drawn to.
Would you say it's charming?
I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's charming.
Is it sublime?
Say, Sublime, I'm not so sure about.
Is that a different scale?
That's a different.
Is it adorbs?
It's not. Well, I would say
Toasted
I would say it's toasted adorbs.
Yeah.
If I was a valley girl,
Yep.
is that what they say in the valley?
Yeah.
Which valley? And we should say that this is the year of Luigi, is it not?
Yeah.
It is indeed. Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
It's just something that people say.
You know the old saying. You know, it's one of the Chinese years, isn't it?
Oh, of course.
Horse, rat,
Of course,
dragon,
Chinese zodiac.
Luigi.
Luigi. Yeah, I was born in the year of Luigi, actually, 1980. And Dr. Luigi's just appeared out of nowhere on the Wii U store, and I love Dr. Mario, by the way. So I won't check this out because it's on Wii U, but I like that it's out there. That was good. That was a good get. We've hit an impasse here, which is just as well because we're just about to head into the next number.
Yeah,
in 15 seconds.
I just love this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say, really. I mean, it's just...
I'd actually say it's quite charming.
I would say it's charming.
Yeah. If I had to get my dictionary out and look up a synonym for I like this game, I'd probably choose charming.
In conclusion, charming.
Now, let's change it up a little bit. With,
big time.
This blockbuster release.
Now, this is probably the antithesis of charming. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be charming because it's a very... Papers, Please is a very bleak...
It's quite bleak.
Very bleak indie game. Made by one guy, Lucas Pope.
Yep.
And basically, this game really, really shook me to my core.
Wow.
Just, you play as a guy in a sort of unnamed... Soviet bloc, and you're a customs officer, and you choose who goes through, who crosses the border, and who doesn't.
Yep.
And that seems like a really kind of simplistic, because it is a very simplistic gameplay mechanic.
The gameplay, it's effectively like a puzzle game.
Exactly.
Right.
But as the game progresses, more and more and more hurdles are thrown in your way. Whether it's that your family are more demanding, perhaps because you've got to also balance your
the more people you kind
wage
of process
with your...
each day, the more money you earn, and you have to pay for rent and food and medicine and stuff for your family.
And frequently you're sort of tasked with these really, really complex kind of moral quandaries where perhaps these perhaps someone's papers aren't in order.
Don't let her in. She looks dodgy.
God.
This is actually a reenactment of you coming into Australia, I think.
I think, yeah, that's what I look like.
Entry granted.
That's
good for
pretty
you.
much, yeah.
Cause no trouble.
Well, I'm glad I was let in.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail that.
But you're frequently tasked with these moral quandaries where someone's papers perhaps aren't in order, but they've got some sort of really heartbreaking story, and you have to make the decision whether to let them through or whether to turn them away.
Early on, there's the husband whose papers check out, and he says, "My wife's behind me. Please let her through." And she rocks up, and she doesn't have the correct paperwork. And it's like, well, because if you get it wrong enough times, you get docked.
Right.
Yeah.
And you kind of like have to be really efficient. You have to be quite dispassionate. And this is what's so effective about it is kind of like almost simulating what it would be like to be in that environment and just trying to survive surrounded by rules and politics and all this that's totally beyond your control. And how do you deal with that situation? How do you deal with being able to detain people who don't have the correct documentation? And then there's ramifications for what you do and don't choose as well, which are never self-evident.
How do you say that? This person's from O'Briston, which sounds like a country that Lucy and I formed together. O'Brien and Tristan. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get off the topic there.
I love it, O'Brien.
Just wanted to contribute.
See, so this is me playing, so yeah, got that wrong. Because, I mean, like, it's not long before you have just all these rules and regulations. You're checking that people... It's not just that, their passport hasn't expired, and, on their passport number and their permit and stuff, the numbers check out, and it's not just that they're the correct sex and that their photo matches up, it's like their weight, it's like all these different things. Like, even the issuing city of the passport... it gets quite complicated, and that's the puzzle element of it. But then there's this great kind of story layered over the top of it that's very subtle but incredibly effective because your fucking family are going hungry and you don't have enough money to support them, but then there's this political situation that's kind of unfolding around you.
Right. And there's with that said, there's this overwhelming feeling of pressure as you're playing it as well, because you just want to get these people through. You want to get as many people through as possible. You've got to be really fast. And I remember when I was playing it, this is sort of the very beginning of the game, and I turned this woman away. I just couldn't afford to have another screw up, basically.
Yep.
And it was a very sort of dispassionate, is that the right word? Decision on my behalf, and she walks off and she just says, and again, this is very minimalist dialogue, but it's really effective. She turns away and she says, "You've doomed me."
Yep.
And that was just such a sort of, that's like, when I read that just sort of sent chills down my spine.
Yep.
And I think that's what this game does so beautifully, is just with very sort of simple, stark, kind of mechanics and
look at the
graphics.
The graphics here, it's like, oh, terrorist attack at the checkpoint.
Yeah.
Wow.
It certainly...
What a bummer.
It really affected me.
Next up, number 7, another indie game, the Stanley Parable.
This is awesome.
It is, isn't it? Am I right in saying that this game sort of existed prior to this year in some form?
No, it was
I'd never played it before this year, but
Half-Life 2 mod, I think, and they've been working on it for a few years now. And I believe it was like this narrator had already done the voiceover, but they've just kind of expanded on it and polished it, and
all that stuff's kind of hinted at in the actual game, in that kind of museum-y.
I mean, that's what's so fascinating about it, is like so many kind of these indie games just break the fourth wall and do it in a very effective way. Like that gallery example is a really good one, because there's so many kind of possible outcomes and so many paths this game goes down that it's really cool to have one of those paths as kind of like an insight in behind the scenes, and because so much of this is just deconstructing the gaming experience, and it's a very clever kind of commentary about video game design and what players want, and the kind of the rewards for playing and what they are, and that kind of stuff.
So Davey Redrin is the mastermind behind the Stanley Parable.
This is just one of the most refreshing games I've ever played.
We should point out just quickly that there might be some little spoilery bits in this section, so just jump ahead 5 minutes if you don't want it spoiled for you.
I don't know, man, because we're kind of showing like one particular path you could take, so I guess it is a spoiler, but it's kind of, no matter what we're showing, unless it's just Stanley standing in an empty office.
Right, it's all...
there'd be some kind of... But the good thing about this game is that you'll see this, and hopefully it'll kind of... If you haven't played it already, you'll be like, well, this looks really interesting. And there's a hell of a lot more to discover. It is quite... it's not like that long necessarily, but it's quite dense. There's a lot of stuff that you won't find unless you're really looking and being methodical.
No, well, I mean, this is captured from one of your playthroughs, and
I didn't see this one.
Yeah, I didn't see this either.
You guys didn't burn the baby?
No.
Burn the
I feel
baby.
quite good about that actually, but obviously there's heaps and heaps of different alternate paths and what have you.
Okay, yeah, this is pretty spoilery, I guess.
Yeah.
But like I kind of wanted to capture this just because it just shows you that this game can kind of go in almost any direction.
Exactly.
And I think what's fundamentally, well, for me, what was so fundamentally refreshing about Stanley Parable was that, and you sort of touched on this before, Kemba, but so many times you're playing a game, especially AAA games, where basically the whole idea is to give the illusion that you have all this freedom, but of course you don't.
Yeah.
And of course, because you don't, you're constantly trying to test those boundaries. You're constantly trying to do things that you shouldn't, because that's just our curious nature as human beings, right? In the Stanley Parable, it outright dares you to stray from the path that it's, that you've been set upon. And I love that about it.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably done it, I guess, because I only played it for about 90 minutes, but I love that part where you're walking down that alleyway after you've been told not to, and the narrator keeps saying, Stanley keeps walking down the alleyway, even though he's been repeatedly told he's going to die at the end. And I just kept going.
And also, let's be honest, any game with a charming British narrator gets my top vote.
Yeah, the narrator's awesome. In fact, the script in general is so strong.
Well, it's got a terrific sense of humour. And again, that's what makes it work so well.
That's what makes it charming.
Well, this is bucking against the trend of these serious sort of po-faced AAA games that we're used to. It's such a refreshing change.
Another little cameo from a very well-known...
Yeah, and just an awesome nod to the engine that it's built on as well.
It must have been so difficult to design this game with so many threads.
It was designed by very smart people, I think.
Well, I think I was reading that Redren had this idea when he was 22.
That was me doing that. In the toilet you go.
So,
what did you do when you were 22?
He's been a very clever guy from a very young age. Well, when I was 22, I was drinking in student bars.
Nice.
I don't even remember what I was doing when I was 22.
How times have changed. There you go. Stanley Parable. Check it out. Affordable, indie, get it. Now let's move on to what number are we up to?
6,
I think.
Let's say it's 6. If it's not, I'll change it later. Ooh.
6.
Oh yeah.
The old Wolf Among Us.
So Telltale's
Ep1.
latest... Telltale are very busy at the moment, as we found out recently at the VGX Awards. This is their first chapter in their adaptation of the Fables comic series, The Wolf Among Us, which is set prior to the events in the comics.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I haven't read, and I had no knowledge of, to be honest, but that's irrelevant. You don't need to...
No, I played through episode 1 before I'd read any of the comics, and then went and read a bunch of the comics.
I mean, to be fair, I played The Walking Dead having not read those comics or watched this TV show. Then I did watch the TV show, and then I immediately regretted that.
But that's the nature of good storytelling. It's driven by characters. I mean, the world and the setting is really, really cool, but they can communicate that quite simply. You don't have to have that prior knowledge to get what it's about.
And I think with The Wolf Among Us, for those of you out there who played The Walking Dead, because maybe you were fans of The Walking Dead specifically, you should definitely play this, because Telltale's really got this sort of narrative niche, this sort of very unique way of telling video game stories down now.
Yep.
And this, for me, The Wolf Among Us was just as entertaining and just as compelling. Although, obviously the actual content, the actual sort of source material was completely different, but it was just as compelling as The Walking Dead. And, of course, this is only chapter 1. We've got so many more to come.
But even though it's only chapter 1, it's arguably just as devastating as well at a certain moment in this chapter.
Uh-huh.
And I love how they've just taken it in this kind of very film noir kind of direction with the kind of damsel in distress kind of storyline, and Bigby's such a kind of hard-boiled kind of character. And coming back to what we were saying about kind of prior knowledge, I mean, this is like one of the opening scenes of the game, and it's the big bad wolf against the huntsman. So it's like everybody knows that fairy tale. So it's a really nice way to kind of ground it, and completely turn what you think you know about fairy tale characters completely on their head. And that's what's really cool about Fables in general is it takes all these well-known characters and does really interesting things with them, because they're all basically been pushed out of their homelands, and they're living in the city, and it's it's a secret kind of community.
Yeah, and I also think fundamentally, like, I remember talking about this actually when I reviewed Beyond, which is obviously Beyond Two Souls, which is obviously another game that
number 5
that tasks you to.
If only it was a top 13.
To make its pitch was to task the players with to make sort of complex moral choices. But I think what Telltale,
chicken dish or beef?
What Telltale does so well is, regardless of whether your choices actually matter, it gives the illusion of these really anguish-filled tasks and choices that the player has to make, regardless of whether those choices make a really fundamental difference. From each minute to minute, you feel like you're making a difference, and that's, to me, is really important.
Yeah, that's absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like, you still want to be told a great story, and it's very, very hard to juggle a story that branches and branches and branches. You have to kind of keep pulling it back, and The Walking Dead and then this are seeming to do that very eloquently. Yeah,
and, obviously, Telltale's now kind of the go-to guy for a lot of these kind of franchises that maybe they don't want a AAA game. Maybe they want a sort of story-driven.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I guess we have to stop saying AAA as, like, we need to change what that means, because this is a AAA game. It absolutely is, and Stanley Parable is a AAA game. Like, we should just make that term about quality rather than budget.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And so next up from Telltale is a Borderlands game, and Game of Thrones.
Tales from the Borderlands, and.
But I mean, as we've discussed before, I mean, these guys have been doing this for a long, long time.
Yep.
Their heritage is this genre from before Telltale was formed. I mean, it's great to see them. Like, they've got to the point where they've worked out how it should work. Because stuff like Back to the Future was quite entertaining, but it was much more old school point and click.
Yep.
Whereas this is like a very modern take on it, and I just can't wait to see how they reinterpret Game of Thrones and all these other games that they're working on.
Of course. Now, number 5, back to the indie scene. We've gone home.
What a great game.
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
As
and to be
a lot
honest,
of indie games do, I guess.
The only reason this came on my radar was Marty's review on IGN. Like,
oh, really? I've been following this for a while. I didn't know much about it, but it looked kind of intriguing.
Yeah. And I played it just because everyone told me that it was fantastic, and I was intrigued, and I was really blew my socks off. It did.
You haven't worn socks since.
I haven't worn socks since.
But it's just so relatable, and I love the sisters. Like, I love the way the game kind of draws comparisons between them, and I love just this, like, she's just such a strong character. Like, she's just full of ideas, and I don't know, like, it's kind of like a pretty, like, arm's length way of telling a story, which, some people may not like that much, but you're kind of joining all the dots yourself, and it's very kind of almost meditative, like, just finding out more about, like, what this family's,
Chun-Li moves.
I mean, for those of you who don't know anything about Gone Home, because I'm sure there are still a few of you out there, basically, you're a girl who's been overseas on her OE, and you come back. This is the basic premise. You come back to the family home, and there's no one home. And basically,
it's late at night. It's raining.
It's late at night. It's raining.
Seems
it's very
really ominous and creepy.
Very ominous, and basically, you unfold a very sort of touching story as you explore the house.
Yeah, and it's kind of multiple stories, actually.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
and they're all really interesting, and they're all, again, really kind of relatable. Like, they're not necessarily stuff that we've experienced, but stuff we can kind of it's about kind of human nature and like the evolution of relationships and all sorts of stuff that games have quite a hard time dealing with generally. It's a very mature, kind of interesting storytelling.
Actually,
wow.
That's a great magazine.
Touching on one thing you quickly said just then when you come back to the filming home, one thing that I was really impressed with, and I was impressed with a lot of things about it though, is that how sort of naturally everything sort of sinks, in that it's put me in the same position as this character because the family has moved to this home while she's been away.
Yeah.
You sort of pick that up from the postcards.
Yeah.
How he's, isn't that kind of weird? I'm writing a new address. So this home is as unfamiliar to you as it is.
Oh, that is such a good point, Luke. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
that's what's so brilliant about it, Luke, is because that's what makes your sort of wants and desires as a player is very rarely at odds with the wants and desires of the protagonist, because she is exploring as much as you are exploring. She wants to discover all the stuff that you want to discover, and you're always on the same team. And again, I think that's a really remarkable achievement for any developer to
Yeah, definitely.
I just want to read her dad's books. They sound great.
I was really surprised. I spotted on Metacritic sort of the user stuff, and it's very polarized on the user scores on Metacritic.
Oh, really?
With a lot of with more animosity than I would have expected. People that are really sort of rebelling against it, saying, "Oh, it's not a game," and it's just critics liked it because it's trendy and different. It's like, well, maybe we did like it because it's different.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Things that are different. I want things that are different.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like,
and it's time for things that are different.
And in this day and age, like, who cares what the definition of a game is? Like, it's an interactive experience. This one's focused on narrative. Others are focused purely on gameplay or just, whatever. Yeah, it seems to me that you shouldn't be labeling things. You should just go in and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's very well crafted for what it is. I mean, there's not enough rocket punching, obviously.
Or shotguns, yeah.
Not enough shotguns. I mean, the multiplayer is terrible. No online leaderboards either, which is disappointing. Who went gone home the most?
No Chivos? Or is there Chivos?
I feel like...
Who's gone to the most home?
I feel like
That's what I was trying to say.
I've gone homed pretty well.
Yeah.
I feel like I might have gone home to better
I seriously went home.
at least some of you.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, check that out. It's awesome. And actually, on this day that we're recording this, it's like $5. It's probably not.
Yeah.
It's probably not on sale anymore, but it will be again.
Okay.
Number 4. This is a game with a slightly bigger budget. BioShock Infinite came out very early on this year. So early on that I forgot that it actually came out this year.
Yep.
But yeah, here we are entering Columbia, which is quite an awesome moment in the game. Well, one of many.
And all of us were fans of the original, so we had high hopes for this one.
Yeah,
the entire world had high hopes for this one. But yeah, man, it really
Big chips. Yeah, really, a lot of eating in this game.
Yeah, a lot of foraging through bins.
Yeah, a lot of foraging through bins. That's actually probably my number one complaint. Is that the economy has too much foraging through bins in it, and that takes you out. Oh, there you go. It makes it really gamey.
He's everywhere, Ken Levine.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is number 4 for a reason, but I think that the only reason the game's suffered from any criticisms at all is because of the sort of gamerisms that sort of seeped in there, because it was such an atmospheric, involving game with such a compelling story. And
it also had combat.
It also had combat, and it also had, foraging for what have you. But yeah, no, absolutely beautiful, compelling game.
But it's kind of interesting coming from, The Wolf Among Us and Gone Home to this, because it just makes me think, like, imagine what Ken Levine could achieve in terms of storytelling if he was able to kind of cut the ties to... to the expectations that a huge budget brings, which is that it has to be accessible and immediately self-evident, like how it plays to the masses.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to see him. Well, not necessarily, because I think this is a very, very good game, and I enjoyed the combat, even though it was the weakest element. But imagine if Ken Levine was just broke out, started an indie studio, or just kind of split Irrational up into smaller teams and kind of oversaw them working on smaller projects that were more story-driven.
Yeah.
It would be incredible. But yeah, I mean, this game just has a payoff like few others. Like I thought about the ending of this game for a really long time, and it took me ages to actually even just wrap my head around the complexities of it, which is a really good thing. It doesn't happen very often.
And I think with that said, regardless of whether you loved or hated this game, there's no denying that
What if I just
you'll
liked
be
it?
thinking, people were debating the story.
Yep.
And I think that's the mark of something really important.
Yeah, I agree.
This is, of course, the awesome, I think, the Beach Boys.
Yeah, the Beach
barbershop
Boys.
quartet.
The B Sharps.
The Beach Sharps. Which is one of the first.
Did they take the B? Are they still called the B Sharps? I don't think they are. Because in the preview code, they were actually called the B Sharps.
Were they really?
Yeah, no, they actually were.
I remember that, yeah.
And do you remember in the preview code, that scene on the Zeppelin with the acolyte who sets him or herself on fire?
Yeah.
And in the preview code, it was a young boy.
Right.
And
I
then it
remember
was
you mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was a much older woman in the final code. And it was like, whoa, they must have had to step away from something.
Right,
burning
yeah,
women.
right, yeah.
That's fine.
Tested. People just might have just been like,
It didn't test well.
It made a big impact on me.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this kid just set himself on fire.
Yeah.
That's messed up. So anyway,
So we just skipped ahead to some of the combat here. We already spoke about the combat earlier, but this is
which like you said, Cam, is totally serviceable.
Yep.
Works really well. But yeah, I did find myself kind of getting to sort of 2/3 of the way through sort of any encounter really, and just wondering, is this the last guy? I kind of hope it's the last guy, so I can get back to exploring and learning about what's going on, because it was just so like the mystery and the intrigue that is sort of wound up in this story is fascinating.
Yep.
Like it's amazing. But then every now and then you kind of get into a thing where it's like, oh, I've got to kill 20 bad guys.
Yeah. And some of those sequences are cool, like when they got the kind of sky rails in the mix in an effective way.
Yeah.
It kind of made the combat
the sky rails are
dynamic.
fun. Yeah.
But they didn't always, quite get that right.
Another game with a sort of non-love interest sidekick who you grow to care and care about.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Good point.
the trend.
It was
at the
indeed.
moment.
I liked Elizabeth's character a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Now, this is arguably my personal favourite game of the year. Very close. And again, obviously a 3DS game. I have put this clip in here in particular because that was a tail end of a very early boss fight in the game. But this is kind of the building up. This is the kind of moment which kind of blew my mind about this game.
Yep.
Because up until now, it was kind of a very traditional top-down kind of Zelda game. But yeah, once you sort of get this ability to sort of become Painted Link and sort of morph into walls, it really changes how you sort of view the map and each location, and the whole sort of exploration of each dungeon and what have you is totally
It's such a clever mechanic because the game actually makes really good use of 3D and the top-down perspective, but just adding this entirely additional layer, it means they can do really, really interesting things with puzzles that you haven't come across in a Zelda game up until this point.
Yeah, and actually, what was the game on PS4 that's got a similar mechanic?
Knack. No, what?
Contrast, doesn't it? So you kind of you turn into a shadow, but it's not as good. But like it's a very similar kind of mechanic.
Yeah,
but it's done a lot
But
better.
Nintendo's got a kind of history of playing with this kind of stuff. Like the Paper Mario series does some really amazing things with the fact that Mario is made of paper and can roll up
2D.
into... Yeah, exactly. But it's really clever.
But so I think just came up here. This is the moment from a gameplay perspective where that was my face from that moment on, and that's how it has stayed while I play this game, in just a sort of a state of sort of perpetual joy. It's a very, very playable game. I play it every day on the train.
Tristan, explain to me, is it because that I suspect it is, because I grew up playing PC games and didn't play any of these games, that I'm watching this and just thinking, eh.
I don't know that I can answer that in a completely impartial way.
You actually, like, the thing about it is that it's you have to kind of see the way the puzzles are designed for yourself. You have to experience it for yourself. And that's what's so clever about it, is the way... it's like so many modern games really hold your hand.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And this game just doesn't, and it's not particularly hard.
No, it's in fact I would say it's one of the easier Zelda games.
Yeah, but you will get stuck for brief periods, and then you have those aha moments where you work out, because you've got this great tool set of abilities plus the ability to morph onto the wall, and there's all these things that Nintendo can kind of combine together in different ways every time. And it's really it's really fun, and it makes you feel like you've kind of legitimately puzzled something out all the time.
Yeah, it's very satisfying.
What did you think of the kind of the economy of the game? I quite
the rental system.
Yeah, I quite like that, but I also find it disappointing that you open chests, and it's much more about kind of accumulating wealth rather than, like, the money is less meaningful because you're spending it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the rental thing is that it kind of changed traditionally speaking, with a Zelda game, they're super linear.
Yeah.
In the sense that you go to this dungeon, then you find the hookshot, and that enables you to go to the next dungeon.
Yeah.
But with this one, because you can just kind of rent those items or buy them, the whole of the low rule underworld dungeons can be approached in any kind of order, and it's... I mean, Zelda games have always been sort of open world, but this is a little bit more freedom as to how you approach it. I don't know, a lot of people have said to me that the rental thing makes the game too easy, because you can...
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think it just changes the structure of the game.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's a good thing, but there are some minor drawbacks to it, which is really just kind of the reward for your efforts. Because the more linear unlocking of abilities... it's a significant reward that is going to change the gameplay.
Feels like you're progressing, sort of. Yeah.
But
that's a minor.
It's such a great game.
Yeah, it is. And I should say that just like Luigi's Mansion, this game does benefit hugely from the 3D part of the 3DS, which obviously you can't see.
Yeah, I actually switched the 3D off a lot in Luigi's Mansion, even though I thought the effect was really, really good.
Right.
But it feels... Yeah, I've played the entire thing in 3D.
Yeah, I mean, there's moments where you're sort of on platforms and you're falling, and you've got to judge the... Anyway.
Let's keep talking about Zelda. Come on.
No one wants to hear about this this little game. Grand Theft Auto 5, number 2 on the list.
This is my favourite game of the year.
This is your number 1.
Yeah,
so you were overruled, clearly.
I was overruled, but not begrudgingly.
There's no denying that GTA 5 was a fantastic game.
This is an amazing mission. I love this mission here.
Yes, this was handpicked by you, Luke, this mission to show in this video. And yeah, it's excellent. A Trevor mission, is it not? Yes.
A Trevor mission, who is the, obviously the best character. It's a shame that this video that we've acquired doesn't have my Trevor, who is bearded and long hair, which I made.
Your Trevor, yeah, right.
Yeah, is the only mistake they made, is having the default Trevor beardless.
Yep. Good point.
He should be a mounted man, essentially.
Yeah. But you can see it all right here. The shooting is just rock solid. There are bespoke third-person shooters, many of them, that cannot get third-person action as right as this game can do. There are racing games that cannot get car handling as right as this game does. There are flight games that can't get flying as right as this game gets.
Yep.
And flying is just a very small part of a very broad just tapestry of gameplay that forms this game. It's really quite... I mean, this is what happens when you spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a game.
Yep, that's right.
But you can't you can't.
But you
fault
can
the
spend
investment.
you can spend huge amounts of money and get like Shenmue or something.
Yeah,
you
or
know, like
beyond.
there are examples of
Or
games
beyond.
where
Yes.
a lot
Sorry.
of money has been spent, but like without the right guidance and the right tech, and there's so many factors that have to come together to produce something with this much kind of complexity and detail,
Yeah.
and
I mean, you just look at look at the world here. I think flying over the world, aside from sort of just looking over the city at night on the out sort of top of Vinewood, I think flying over it gives you the best sense of the scale,
Right.
and that you can go down to a street level, to a curb level, from here, from this point, in a jumbo, down to the curb, and the detail is astonishing.
Yep.
It's unprecedented, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think also, and this is something that Keza brought up in her review, what GTA 5 does so well is it tells a story that the player wants to know more about, despite the fact that you are in this giant open world. Because frequently that's the problem when you're making an open world game, is that you've got to sort of factor in the idea that the player will always want to tell their own story. But what Rockstar has done so well is tell a story that the player also wants to be involved in by this sort of 3-character system, which sort of, instead of, for example, in GTA 4, you had this one character kind of having the burden of all these plot lines and all these different kind of wants and needs. But in GTA 5, those wants and needs are shared between 3 characters, making the whole story feel way more cohesive and way more compelling. And in an open world game where you can do so much, the fact that I still cared about what happened to those 3 guys is really testament to Rockstar.
Sorry, I'm just watching.
Yeah, just watching the awesome.
Think there's no way that you can go back to a GTA without that sort of 3-character structure. Now I think it just worked so well.
Yep.
Because normally it was that a GTA protagonist was spread so thinly.
Yeah.
And now this is the kind of perfect thing they've got going on.
This is the James Bond moment.
Yeah, this is the James Bond moment. Very glad that they get in the Jeep, because it's the only way they're out of it. But yeah, it did change the way you play. Like, I was keenly aware of Franklin's, better.
Look at the clouds. Sorry. Yeah.
And Trevor's really unpredictable nature just made it a lot more easier in context to be a psychopath.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think Trevor is probably the most successful GTA character ever.
Yeah.
He epitomizes GTA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well done,
incredible.
Rockstar.
Still playing it.
And the number 1 is, of course,
Could it have been
The
anything
Last
else?
of Us.
I don't think it could have. It couldn't have been anything else. Everyone saw this coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very little to say. Well, no, I mean, I could bang on about this game.
Surely
for
there's
days.
a good 5 minutes.
There's
Should we
certainly
sit
a
in
good
silence?
5 minutes. We could easily sit in silence, just soak in what we see on screen. No, the Last of Us is an unprecedented slap in the face to me. I don't know about you guys. It rocked my world.
Slap in the face, kick to the junk.
Yeah.
Just beat me all over, really, and I loved it. I don't know what that says about me, but I Uncharted 3 I was kind of disappointed with after Uncharted 2. So
Same here.
And I know that was that like the other team at Naughty? I mean, I'm sure they all worked together to some extent, but
There was the 2 teams. I think I've said before. I don't agree with you guys. I really liked Uncharted 3, but
Hey, we liked it.
I'm not saying it's bad.
We didn't say it was
I'm saying it's
bad.
like an 8 out of 10 when I expect 9 point something out of 10 from these guys. Anyways, they delivered with this game, because a big part of my gripes with Uncharted 3 was the combat. But like the storytelling was like awesome. Like,
Absolutely.
fun. The acting's great, the writing's great. But in this game, like, the storytelling's again awesome, but the combat is also awesome. So I'm never like dreading any sequence or trying to get through a sequence to get back to the story or what have you. It's all good all the time, all oppressive and kind of a bummer.
yeah,
but
massive bummer.
But I think that's why the game works so well. I mean, when you actually sort of dissect why it is so brilliant. It's because Naughty Dog is taking this formula that we're all very familiar with, which is this idea of like a guy or a couple of guys or, you know, two characters fighting for their lives at the end of the world, which is basically the fundamental core story of most of these big budget games, right? Like people fighting for their life. But what they've done is they've managed to make that feel really real for a change. You never feel overpowered. You never feel like you're a god. You always feel vulnerable. And you know, further to that, you've got the secondary character in Ellie who you really, really care about. And you really care about protecting her. And all of a sudden, as you progress through the game, the odds just get higher and higher and higher. And, you know, the tension ramps up. And it's just the way that things unfold at the end. I mean, not to spoil anything, just shows that Naughty Dog are really sort of
Naughty Dog.
I
like to think that they have Naughty Dog working at Naughty Dog.
In Boston.
Put this in here just for you, Lucy.
Oh, did you use this an Easter egg?
Well, no, it's not an Easter egg, but it could be a spoiler, I guess, if you haven't played this game.
Oh, look at that! See, this is my favourite moment in the game. This moment when, and it is a little bit of a spoiler, but this moment where they stumble across the
end boss is a giraffe. There's the spoiler, okay?
And, you know, it's the beginning of the final act, and it's this moment where everything sort of becomes...
Come here.
This is the sort of beginning of the end when they see the giraffes, and it's a moment of peace, as opposed to most games where the turning point would be a moment of war or a moment of, you know, combat or whatever, a big fight. This is where things... This is where it becomes real for these characters.
Yep.
And just the fact that Naughty Dog did it with a couple of CGI giraffes.
Let's go.
CGI giraffes, what am I talking about?
They were mo-capped giraffes.
Mo-capped giraffes blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, the evolution of the relationship between Ellie and Joel is just so neatly handled. And like Elizabeth, you know, she's a really strong character in her own right. And she's a really likable character, and she's a really unique character. And you have that narrative kind of thrust throughout the game, but as Tristan said, opens up into much more sandboxy kind of combat. Like, so you kind of have your cake and eat it too here. You get a really well-told story, great characters, but then the gameplay gives you options. And
exactly,
you don't even need to shoot.
That's the thing, you don't even need to use your gun, and I think that's so important in this game.
Yep.
You don't need to use your gun in the game.
I need to.
Well, the game lets you, you know, it gives you the option not to,
yes,
and I think that's really important.
I think, no one does characterization better than Naughty Dog.
No.
At the moment, right now.
No.
And this game, no game I've ever played has affected me in the same ways as this game did. You know, in terms of emotion.
Yep.
And storytelling.
Can't deny the view,
And
though.
I just
apart from the bit with the giraffes. Sorry.
But it's just, I don't know. I mean, like,
I think we're going to fade out here, but keep talking, Luke.
Yeah,
sorry.
well, you know, as a father, it's something that I.
Oh, way to ruin Luke's point.
Sorry.
Anyway,
Classic.
as a father, and I know you mentioned this before, but as a father, Last of Us was a really heavy experience.
Yeah, big time. I mean,
and just looking at it then, the last 5 minutes, just looking, because it's been several months since I played Last of Us, but just looking at it, it's like, what? If you don't have a PS4 yet, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Seriously, just chill out for another few months, because, damn, like, the games, they didn't need to look any better than The Last of Us did.
No, and I think that's kind of the thrust of this whole top 12. If you don't have a PS4 yet, don't worry about it. That has been the top 12 games of IGN AU's choosing. Any final thoughts of the year? It's been a good one.
It's been
a great
amazing year.
Yeah. Good. Okay, and so thank you very much, Luke Riley.
Thank you, Tristan Ogilvy.
Thank you, Cam Shea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy O'Brien.
Thanks, T-Balls.
Thank you, me, and we will see you in the new year. Have a great festive season.
Yeah, thanks for listening and watching.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye.